This is part 2 of my discussion of creating a microtonal scale. I would advise that you watch part 1 before watching this video so that it makes more sense. Warning: this video contains brief periods of high-pitched, potentially annoying frequencies, not including my voice. If you are sensitive to certain high-pitched frequencies, I would suggest muting the video at the following points. Unfortunately, we as humans aren't perfect, and we all make mistakes. On that note, I have to correct 2 things from my last video. Correction 1. For the Hexatonic-Based 5 scale from my previous video, I incorrectly rounded when estimating the final amount of cents to 1200, and there should have been one more frequency in the scale. That will be fixed in this video. And correction 2. In the part of the video where I discussed rounding, I incorrectly stated that I was rounding the final value of the frequencies between 440 Hz and 880 Hz, when I was actually rounding the final value of cents between 0 and 1200. I promised last video that I would do this, and I did it. I did all the scales for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 note scales. I did every microtonal scale. Well, every percentonal microtonal scale, that is. Check out this long list of frequencies. Before we get back into the music, I just want to point out a couple of observations that I made during the process of making this video. Observation 1. The new scales respectively have 108, 81, 73, 51, 56, 43, and 41 notes. If I put them all together into one scale, that would be a 453 note microtonal scale, which, no, I am not programming. This is a strange non-pattern sequence of terms. There doesn't seem to be any kind of rhyme or reason to it, especially jumping from 51 to 56, and 108 all the way down to 81, and then going back all the way down from 73 to 51. I'm not a mathematician. I don't know if there's an actual pattern here. If you're a mathematician and you can figure this out, please let me know in the comments. Thank you. Observation number 2. You'll notice that when you're listening to these scales, sometimes the frequencies seem to last longer than they should, i.e. one note sounds like it's lasting the amount of time of 2 or 3 notes. That's because the value of cents is different by the tiniest amount, but not the frequency, because cents and frequencies do not correlate like that. The amount of cents goes up by, say, 1,000th of a cent. The frequency won't change, at least not to the human ear. Alright, all that stuff's out of the way. Now it's time to get back to the music. As with the previous video, I'm going to play all the individual scales first, and then after I do all the scales, I'm going to play the macro percentonal scale for each set of individual scales, and then stick around for the end because I have a special surprise. You know that thing that I showed at the beginning of this video and the previous video? Well, that's a synthesizer, and it's called a tonal plexus. It was developed by hpi Instruments by Aaron Andrew Hunt. Plexus is a word that means intricate, intertwined network, such as the one in the human body, consisting of nerves. In a similar vein, the tonal plexus consists of 41 notes per octave, and some models have up to 205 keys. I believe that the one I've been showing in the pictures is a 2-octave model. This is how the developers came up with the 41 note per octave system. They started with the regular note as you would hear it on the piano keyboard, and then subtracted 5.9 cents, and then subtracted 5.9 cents again, and then they went the other way, adding 5.9 cents, and then adding 5.9 cents again. So you may be asking, what's 5.9 cents? What does that have to do with anything? That's called the just noticeable difference. If I play you one pitch, and then play you a pitch about 5.9 cents higher or lower, you will be able to just about distinguish which pitch was higher and which one was lower. Given that information, we can better understand the keys of the tonal plexus. The circle in the middle is the natural note. I'll just say for the example, natural G. There's one above it that goes up one just noticeable difference, in other words 5.9 cents. That's a smaller circle, and then the one on the top goes up two just noticeable differences, 11.8 cents. So you have G natural, what he calls G sharp here, and then also what he calls G double sharp. And then it goes the other way, what he calls G flat, and what he calls G double flat. If you're used to the piano keyboard, you may realize that these are not actually G flat and G sharp. These are just the names that you chose. But wait, there's more. There's also a triple sharp and a triple flat, and it all comes together in this circle of this, and you can see that there are different colors now. You have white for the natural keys, black for the sharps and flats just like on a regular piano keyboard, gray for the double flats and double sharps, and then you have blue where the triple sharps and triple flats intersect. The keys are arranged in a funky shape. There's a whole lot of mathematics behind this, but I'm not going to get into it. However, you discover that when you physically play a synthesizer, which I never have, that the notes are in a relationship of a rhombus. I just want you to let this sink in for a second at how cool this is. This is a microtonal synthesizer, so in reality, D flat and C sharp are kind of different. When you go up, you have diatonic half steps, and when you go down, you have chromatic half steps. When you go one way, there are 3 steps to get to E from C, and when you go the other way, it takes 4 steps. This is why 2 of the same note have 2 totally different names. This is an extremely simplified explanation of the tonal plexus, but I thought I'd just clarify what that thing was at the beginning of these videos, in case you were wondering. My explanation does not do justice to how cool this instrument is. I suggest watching videos of a YouTuber called Dolo Muse playing her compositions with it. Yeah, the surprise was that there really was no surprise at all. So, you know that instrument that I showed at the beginning of this video and the previous video? That instrument is called a tonal... Oh, that's a pedal.